Setting up the chart of accounts. The chart of accounts is important and underpins how your client's report works. In this section, we will take a look at how to set up accounts individually, as well as how to import accounts in bulk. Natasha's Accounting and Bookkeeping Solutions likes to use the standard chart of accounts across their client base. Natasha has instructed Carol that rather than accepting the default chart of accounts for Zippy Electrical and Data Services, she should also import in the firm's standard chart of accounts to include all the accounts they need. Importing a chart of accounts is also handy when you have a client who has a complex chart of account, as it's generally easier to import in than set up from scratch manually. Carol takes a quick look and does a little bit of tidying up, as well as adding in a new account called Parking and Tolls, before she actually looks at importing in the remainder of the accounts that she needs for the file. To gain access to the chart of accounts, there's 3 locations. We can find this from the gear icon, Your Company, Chart of Accounts. And you can see it takes us to this Take a Peek under the bonnet. The other way that you can actually find the chart of accounts is under the Accountant Tools, Chart of Accounts, and you can see it takes us straight to the same window. The other way is by clicking on under Accountant, Chart of Accounts, and you can see again it's the same default chart of accounts and import chart of accounts that it's actually asking us to do. So let's take a look at the default chart of accounts first, shall we, before we import in the chart of accounts. Now, if you did want to import in the chart of accounts, I'd actually suggest that you look at what is already in your QuickBooks Online file, and then we can look at importing in some chart of accounts. So let's take a look, and you can see that you do have the option of importing new accounts from this Import Now button, but what we want to do is just go down the list and have a look at the default accounts that we have already open. So just to look at what you have in your chart of accounts, you have the name of the account, the type, the detail type, and we can set the GST rate if there's a balance in QuickBooks and a balance in the bank. Balance, of course, is for the banks. You have the option of account history when you have information in that chart of account, and you have the option to edit that account, make it inactive, or run a report. You also have the option of a batch edit, and if we open up the batch edit, you can see we can edit in one hit without having to go in and out of different accounts. Let's click Save for this particular moment. You also have the option to print your account list, and then you have the settings where the columns can be tailored to suit your needs. And I'm happy with what we have at the moment, so we'll let that go. Now, let's take a look at adding in a new account. We click on New, and this is where we have the option of choosing what we need for the balance sheet or the profit and loss accounts. As you can see, the account type is mainly the balance sheet items that you need. And then from income down will be found on the profit and loss. In this particular case, we were going to open up a new account called Parking and Tolls, and that is an expense. So let's choose expenses. Now, every time you choose your account type, you need to choose your detail type. Now, a detail type is still compulsory to choose, although it doesn't affect any of your reporting. So just choose the closest detail type to what account you are opening. And before I do that, I just want to show you that if I chose income, you can see the detail type will change. Okay, so in this case, we are going to choose expenses, and we were looking at parking and tolls, and that's a motor vehicle expense. So what is the closest that we have to motor vehicle? You could choose auto, or you could actually choose travel. So it's up to you what you would like to choose. I'm going to choose motor vehicle or auto in this particular case. I'm going to change the name of that chart of account to parking and tolls. You can add in a description if you like, and also you can make this as a sub-account of a parent account. Now, I wonder if we have motor vehicles expenses. We do. So I'm going to make this account a sub-account of motor vehicle expenses. You can also set the default GST code. So let's set the default GST code as GST on purchases. And let's choose Save and Close. Now, as you can see, we do have a lot of accounts in this section. So if I want to find and see what I've actually done, I'm just going to type in parking, and here it is here. So let's close that down. Let me scroll down till we get to motor vehicle expenses, and you can see that parking and tolls is now a sub-account of motor vehicle expenses. And you also, as a note here, guys, if you are doing a sub-account, it has to be the same type and the same detail type. Otherwise, it won't work. Another way that you can also set up the GST rate, if you don't want to do it individually, of course, is if I just scroll up the top where it says batch, you can set the default GST code. So let's scroll down and set some GST codes to default. We'll choose next. You can select the expenses that you want to default to GST. We'll just choose these two and we'll scroll up. Then at Batch Actions, we'll set those default to GST code. What default would we like to use? Yes, we'd like to use GST on purchases and choose Apply. Then as we scroll down to GST electricity and fuels and oils, and we'll go across, and you can see we've defaulted both of those expenses to GST on purchases. What else will have GST? Let's say telephone and internet expenses. I'm just going to scroll up to the top. Batch Actions, set default GST code. Here's the default GST code that I want to add, and we're going to choose GST on purchases and apply. Now when I scroll down to my expenses, you can see the expenses that we chose have already got the GST default. And that's a really nice and quick and easy way to set up your GST codes. Now, if we want to make some accounts inactive because we want to clean up these defaulted accounts because we don't use some of them, let's scroll down and let's choose a couple of accounts that we no longer need for this particular client. So as I scroll down, I no longer would like sales. We'll take out freight and delivery. We'll take out insurance because we add in our own insurance accounts through the bulk import. Purchases. So let's just scroll up the top. Batch Actions, make inactive. Are you sure? Yes, we are. And there you go. And it says 3 out of 4 accounts were inactivated successfully. Now, there could be a reason why the 4th one wasn't made inactive, and that is if it is an actual account that the system uses as a default, it will not allow you to make that account inactive. So just remember that, please. Now, if we want to merge some accounts together, let's just say we've got 2 accounts with the same name and we want to merge them, I'll show you how we can actually merge them quite easily. So let's scroll down and let's see what accounts we're going to merge. Okay, we have bank charges and fees and bank charges. So how do we merge this? What name would we like to keep? I think I'd like to keep bank charges and fees. So what I do is I highlight the account that I want to keep, click copy, go across to under the action, edit, and the name I'm going to save as the account name that I want, and it should be GST free, by the way. Save and close. It says that name is already being used. Would you like to merge the two accounts? Yes, I would, thank you. Click yes, and you can see if I scroll down to bank charges, the other one has disappeared. So that's how easy that is. The other thing I want you to note that if you do have any accounts that are in the balance sheet, right? Let's scroll down all the way to opening balance equity, which is our last one, owner drawings. You can see it gives you the option to run a report called account history. At this stage, I don't have any transactions in there, but you'll be able to run a report, which is awesome. Otherwise, the action will allow us to edit that account, make it inactive, and again, run that report. So this account history is the account history. As you can see, it will show you the increase and decrease, which is slightly different to the report. Let's go back to our chart of accounts and let's scroll right down till we get to the profit and loss accounts. And let's have a look at accounting and bookkeeping. And as I scroll across, you can see I can run a report, edit, and make inactive. I do not have the option to show the account history. Okay, that's how easy it is to add in a new chart of account. Now, let's take a look at importing in chart of accounts. Now, to import in your chart of accounts, you can easily choose the drop-down menu, import, or from the gear icon, under tools, import data. I tend to use this as it gives me a quite different range of all the different data that I can actually bring in via the import button. So in this case, let's choose chart of accounts. You can see I can reset this QuickBooks file to erase the already pre-built chart of accounts that's in our chart of accounts at the moment. Then we can use a handy template to set up new accounts the way you like them when you're ready. Return here to import your custom chart of accounts. I'm not going to reset them at the moment, so I'll just say no thanks. But if I did want to, I would reset QuickBooks. It would wipe out all the chart of accounts already pre-built, and then I can bring in my existing accountant firm chart of accounts that we use for all of our files. But I'm going to say no thanks in this particular case. You can also download a template, which will give you, as you can see down here, it will give you the option to add in to your file. And this is your template. So do not move anything from the top two, and then you can just add in what you need from this particular area that you need to import in. I'm just going to close that one down. Now, I already have my template set up, so I'm going to click Browse, and I'm going to choose the file I need so I can upload it. Here we have the Import QBO Core Chart of Accounts, and we will choose Next. It will actually come up with the pre-populated selection of what our template uses. You can see we don't use the opening balance or balance date, nor do we use an account number. It has actually selected what our template was set up as. So let's click Next. And you can see if I scroll down, it's actually going to bring in all these different accounts that our company business setting needs to run the business. Now, if you do have any issues here, it actually says another account is already using this name. Please use a different name. Now, what that means is if we bring that in, it will duplicate the account. So guess what? We don't need to bring that in, so we just unselect that. And let's keep scrolling down. Okay, we have a bit of an issue over here that it doesn't like other expenses. But if I just choose other expenses, it will select the correct name that we are after. What happened there was that when we set up the default chart of accounts for our firm, whoever set it up with a small case e, not an uppercase e. Same with this one. Let's have a look at this, loss of disposal of assets. You can see that somewhere along the line, it is slightly different spelling, and that's all you need to do to change. And again, with this one, we want GST on purchases, so we need to just choose GST, as it is other income, not an expense. Okay, and that's it. And you can see it doesn't take that long to do, and we are bringing in a bulk amount, in fact 49 new accounts into our file. And all we need to do is just choose import. Now it says it didn't bring in 3 accounts. Why didn't it bring in 3 accounts? Because they are already in QuickBooks Online. So I don't really care about those, so that's fine. So I'm just going to unselect those and close the import window down. Now, if I go to my chart of accounts and I'm going to go under accounting, chart of accounts, you can now see the new accounts that we've imported in, and one of them was the East Bank business account. Now, let me just explain this to you. Just going to click under Actions, Edit. When you're setting up a bank account, it has to be any one of these, cash and cash equivalent, and under detail type, any one of these. I always keep mine on cash and cash equivalent. You can, however, change them to any one of those if you wish. And also, if you are creating an ABA file for this particular bank to upload to your bank for a bulk payment for your bills, this is where you create it from here. You put in the BSB, bank account number, bank code, direct entry user ID, and if you want to include a self-balancing transaction in batch files. So this is where you set up your ABA file. So I'm just going to unselect that because we don't want to set up an ABA file at this stage, and click Save and Close. And as you can see, we do have a lot more accounts now in our QuickBooks Online file. As a tip, everyone, you need to make sure that your chart of accounts is finalised before importing in your products and services, which we'll do in the next couple of topics. Carol has successfully imported in the chart of accounts for Zippy Electrical and Data Services. She reviews for any possible duplicate accounts, is now ready to commence setting up the business customers and suppliers. So as you know, we've actually gone along and we've tested that we no longer have any duplicate accounts. So we're happy to keep it at what we've actually imported in because we cleaned up our chart of accounts prior to the import. I normally clean up my accounts prior to the import. However, as Damien has a number of suppliers that are based offshore, she needs to set up multi-currency area first to ensure those applicable currencies have been added, and we'll take a look at that in the multiple currency module.